This is the Secure Family Podcast. Welcome, friend. I'm Andy Murphy. This show is all about empowering parents to protect themselves and their family. I believe that security is the foundation of happiness. I want your family to be safe and happy. If that sounds like something that resonates with you, subscribe to the show because there's always something new to talk about. The information that I share on this podcast is for general information purposes only. My goal is to empower you to make safer decisions for yourself and your family because our safety is our own responsibility. Today, I'm going to share with you what you should and should not do when you call 911. Most people feel scared to dial those 3 numbers, but after this, you'll know exactly what to say to get help as fast as possible. All of that and more coming up on the Secure Family Podcast. Have you ever wondered who's actually buying your information from data brokers? It can be private citizens, marketers, and even law enforcement. I'm not completely okay with all of that. Also, scammers and even cyber criminals can buy your information. They can misuse your data and trick you out of your money and your personal banking details. They use your real data to send convincing phishing emails, target your family with fake offers, or worse, commit identity theft using your personal information. And to top it all off, buying from these sketchy people search sites is legal. This is why I feel Delete Me is important. None of the groups I mentioned before should have my personal information. I know Delete Me is going to remove my personal data from hundreds of data broker sites. Right now, you can get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/dad and use promo code DAD at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/dad, code DAD. Delete Me is a sponsor of the Secure Family Podcast. Have you ever had to call 911 before? I'm always surprised at the amount of people who've never actually done it. And I'm even more surprised at the people who are astonished that I've done it. A bunch, actually. There is this mystique about calling 911. Some people think that it's got supernatural powers that will stop an emergency in its tracks, or they'll think that it's the end-all solution to every problem. But the truth is, 911 isn't magic. It's not going to solve all of your problems instantly. Today, I want to walk you through what 911 really is, what happens when you call, what you need to know to make the process work best for you and the first responders who are coming to help. Generally, you never know when you're going to have to call 911. Most of us don't wake up that day and say, oh, you know what? Thursday, I need to call 911 today. No, that's not how it happens. Take what happened to me one chaotic summer morning, for example. My son and I were in our car on our way to start the day. I didn't know that later that morning I was going to have to call 911 multiple times. So to jump right in, there was this older woman who was driving erratically, weaving through multiple lanes and even up on the sidewalk. She clearly was not in control of herself or her vehicle, and that's when I decided to call 911. The phone rang once, and a male dispatcher asked me for the address of the emergency. I gave him the closest intersection, and I explained what was happening. He was a little confused, but then he asked me if we were heading toward our town or away from it. Now, to me as a civilian, that sounded like a strange question, but I answered away, because that's what was happening. He told me that he was going to transfer me to the next town's jurisdiction since the spot that I was in couldn't respond before we crossed over the border, supposedly something like that. I'm not sure that really mattered, but that's what he said. So then he sends me on to the second emergency dispatcher who is in another jurisdiction, and that person promptly hangs up on me. Cool. So I called again, and I got a female dispatcher at the original jurisdiction. I brought her up to speed and asked her if she would just send me on to the next jurisdiction. She understood, and she sent me on. Meanwhile, the car that I was calling about was right behind me, and I was stuck in the inside lane with a sidewalk, and then there was a ditch, and I was really concerned that she was going to rear-end me. And not because I thought it was going to be a fender bender, I thought she was going to ram my car. It was that chaotic. So finally, the next town's dispatcher answered, and I told her what was happening and where we were. But she seemed confused about why she was getting the call. So then I had to explain that we were just about to cross into her area and that I had already been forwarded there from the other jurisdiction. And then finally we got on the same page. And as that happened, the dangerous driver turned into a gas station. On one hand, I was very relieved that she was off the road, but on the other hand, that meant that she was still in the original town's jurisdiction and did not cross the border, so then I had to be sent back to the original dispatch jurisdiction. So back I went. And now I'm talking with my fourth dispatcher in like 7 minutes, and only then was I able to finally give a vehicle description, explain the urgency, and then help them try to make the right decision as to what to do next. And by the way, the whole time that I'm doing this, I'm driving, not a big thing, But that experience taught me something important. When you call 911, things may not go as planned. Even though you are on the phone with dispatch, the emergency doesn't take a time out. The situation keeps going. People may still be bleeding, gunmen may still be threatening, and cars may still be wrecking. Even with 911 on the phone, you may have to put pressure on a wound, get to safety, or keep your eyes on a suspect until help arrives. For a time, you're still going to be on your own, even with that dispatcher in your ear. My expectation that day was simple, that I would make one phone call, talk to one person, and within 1 minute, help would be on the way. But that's not always how it works. Here's what you need to tell a 911 operator. First, start with your location. Remember in the story, that was the first question that the first guy asked me was, "Where are you?" That is the single most important piece of information, because if your call drops, then they can still send help to the right place. You're going to need to be ready with a street address, a cross street, a landmark, or even a mile marker if you're out on the interstate. Second, you give your phone number. Even with enhanced 911, systems don't always pick up correctly on where you are or what your number is. Having your number means that they can call you back if you're disconnected. I have given my number to 911 a bunch of times, and nobody's ever called me back. It's not been a big deal, so don't worry about it when they ask you what your phone number is. It's not putting you on the line for anything. It's just that if they need more information or they need to call you back, they know how to do it. Third, you need to describe that emergency clearly. Keep it short. Say something like, "This woman's driving erratically," or "My son collapsed and isn't breathing." The dispatcher will then ask follow-up questions. In medical calls, you're going to expect like the big four questions of what happened, how old is the person, are they conscious, are they breathing, that sort of thing. Fourth, you're going to need to stay calm and stay on the line. Even if you call 911 by mistake, please don't hang up, because when you hang up, that triggers a response that you have no say in whatsoever. So if you stay on, you can quickly tell them, "Oh, hey, it was an accident. I'm sorry." And if it's real, staying connected lets them walk you through what to do until responders get there. And finally, if 911 operators give you instructions, you're going to need to follow them. Dispatchers can actually walk you through how to do CPR, choking relief, and even walk you through childbirth, which, crazy as it sounds, but you might find yourself in that situation, and I'm betting you're going to appreciate a little bit of help. In my case with the erratic driver, I had to change the words that I was using. I kept saying, "There's this lady, she's going on and off the road," but that didn't really land with the dispatcher. It wasn't until I used the phrase "impaired driver." That's when he understood the urgency. And then he knew exactly what to do. And that's the lesson that we need to keep in mind here, that words matter. If you panic, you may give the wrong street name, or you might stumble across the description. That has happened to me. Slow down. Be concise. Dispatchers are trained to get the details that they need, but you can help by giving them the clearest version of what's happening. And a way that you can manage the panic and manage the chaos is to get to a safe place first before calling 911. That is a big thing. If it's a car wreck, if it's a fire, if it's an active shooter situation, whatever it is, Get yourself away from harm and then call 911. You don't want to be standing in the middle of a burning building being like, oh, hey, the fire department's on the way, but, you're burning alive. You want to get out of the building first, then call 911. So that brings me to my next point. You can't count on somebody calling 911 for you. Don't rely on the hope that a passerby saw your car go off the road and that somebody else is going to call for you. I've seen that firsthand. As a matter of fact, I witnessed it not that long ago. But a story from years ago, there was a guy who collapsed at my office, and half a dozen people were right there when he collapsed, but nobody got their phone and called 911. They froze. They panicked. They didn't know what to do. One person ran to get our supervisor, who I was talking with at the time, and we left with them. And when my supervisor got there, he asked, hey, has anybody called 911? And we just got blank stares back. At that point, I pulled out my phone, I made the call, and then I ran outside to flag down the ambulance. That's actually pretty common when something traumatic happens. People just assume that, hey, somebody else is going to handle it. But here's the truth. If you witness an emergency, be the one to call. Wouldn't you want somebody to do that for your wife or your kids if they were in an accident? Don't just assume. Take that responsibility. Now, I've had the unique experience of visiting multiple 911 call centers. Those operators take hundreds of calls, and they do so professionally every single time. It's actually really cool to watch them at work. One of them once told me, we have to be at our best when everyone else is at their worst. And that stuck with me. Another thing that I learned from a 911 call center is that people's kids call all the time. I was at one center for about 90 minutes one day, and in that time, 3 different kids called 911 because they were playing with their mom's phone. That's one every 30 minutes, and that was a rural county. Imagine what it's like for a bigger jurisdiction. Those dispatchers handled the situation well, but I want to tell you, keep your kids from playing with your phone. And I know that in all 3 of those situations, the moms had no clue that the kid had their phone and certainly that they had dialed 911. Also, many jurisdictions in 2025 can take text messaging, which I think is really cool. So if you can't talk, you can text 911 directly. In some cases, you can even send pictures and videos. I think that's a great service to have, and having a picture of what's going on can really help those who are responding. And there's also something else really cool that I think you should invest some time in, and that is something called Smart 911, and in my opinion, it could be a real lifesaver. So Smart 911 is this free, optional service where you can create a safety profile ahead of having to call 911. This includes details that you would want first responders to know if you ever had to call. This can be medical information, door codes, and a whole lot more. I've done this, and I think that is absolutely worth your time. Once you build your profile and verify your phone number, whenever you call 911 from that phone, the dispatcher gets to see your profile automatically pop up on their screen. And that means that they can have your critical information before you even say anything. Think about how helpful it could be if you are in shock or you're just simply unable to talk. Your medical conditions, allergies, medications, even things like your pets, access codes, or a note that somebody in your own home has mobility challenges, well, those can all be preloaded right there for them. Smart 911 is secure, private, and only activated when you actually call 911, but then again, only if your local system actually supports it. You can control what is shared, and it's shared only with emergency personnel when it's needed. You can share emergency contacts, your medical providers, and even what vehicles you have. Also, you can add your pets as well, and even upload pictures of them. And also, Smart 911 has an app that offers you alerts and notifications. You can get weather warnings, missing person alerts, evacuation notices, and you can sign up for those via text or email as well. Now, you should know that not every community has Smart 911 yet, but the coverage is growing. Even if your hometown doesn't have it, you might be traveling through an area that does, so your profile will pop up when you called from your verified phone in a different jurisdiction. I've uploaded a picture of my son to Smart 911. That way, if he ever goes missing, dispatch already has his picture ready to send to the police, to news stations, and even the information officer to post it on social media. So what's our takeaway from all of this? Well, if you call 911, you're going to need to give your location first, then your phone number. Remember to be calm, speak clearly, get away from the emergency and call from a safe place. Stay on the line, even if you misdialed. Follow the dispatcher instructions if they give you any, and don't assume that anybody else is going to make the call. If you see in an emergency, you need to be the one that calls. And most importantly, I need you to remember, 911 isn't magic. Just because you dial those 3 numbers doesn't mean that the fire stops burning. It doesn't mean that your friend stops bleeding. It means that you're still going to need to act until help arrives. 911 is a phenomenal tool, but you're still responsible for yourself and what's going on until help arrives. In the next 30 seconds, I'm going to try to list everything OmniWatch covers in their elite plan. Dark web monitoring, credit monitoring and reports, AI scam check for emails and text, up to $2 million in identity theft insurance, up to $50,000 in scam and ransomware protection, a VPN, antivirus and malware protection, home title monitoring. Okay, and there's actually more. But you get the point. All of that and more for $20 a month. Try OmniWatch today with a $1 7-day trial at the link in the show notes. It's one of the best values to protect your family. That's all we have for the Secure Family Podcast for today. Thank you, friend, for listening. Take back your privacy and personal data with help from Delete Me. Get 20% off a privacy plan when using the code DAD at checkout. Delete Me is the official data removal service of the Secure Dad. If you enjoyed this episode or learned something new today, I'd be grateful if you'd follow the show, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, or leave a 5-star review. OmniWatch is a scam and identity protection service that monitors your data, alerts you to threats, and backs you up with insurance. Try OmniWatch for 7 days for only $1. Get started at the link in the show notes. Learn how to freeze your child's credit with my free guide. I'll share why this is important, how the process works, and help you gather all of the information that you're going to need. This guide is presented by OmniWatch, and you can download it for free at the link in the show notes. If you'd like to know more about the Secure Dad, join me on Instagram and TikTok. My username for both platforms is The Secure Dad. I'm Andy Murphy, reminding you that our safety is our own responsibility.